If you're in my situation and maybe your camera died, that's why you're thinking about upgrading. I would say that if the repair cost is less than 30 to 40% of buying it new and your current camera meets all of your needs, then yeah, I would just repair it. If upgrading would give you features that you would actually use or would make your workflow much more efficient, and they're not just like, well, that would be nice type of thing, then yeah, it might be worth it to upgrade. Hey, welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast, brought to you by CloudSpot, the best way to deliver and sell your photos online. I'm your host, Raymond Hatfield, and today I want to chat about a few things. I thought that I would have a bit more of a candid discussion about all of the photography things that are going on in my life today. So today we're going to talk about how to know when it's worth repairing a camera versus upgrading your camera, why my new camera is going to help me to be a better photographer, and why if you upgrade, it might not help you, why the passage of time is what excites me most about my most current photo project, and also why it's so important to give yourself some creative inspiration and walk away from work from time to time. So first, let me start off by just saying that my beloved Fujifilm X Pro 2 died. So I was out shooting. I was shooting a scene of some food for work. We were just showing off some food, right? So I was taking photos, and I was probably, 20 or 30 photos in, and the screen just flashed black and red, and then it just turned off. So I knew that I had charged the battery before shooting, so I tried to turn it back on, and again, EVF flashed black and then red, and then it didn't turn back on, and it was like the camera had this mini heart attack. It was horrible to watch it. I knew something was wrong, and it wasn't just a dead battery. Because again, I knew that I charged the battery before I had started shooting, so anyway, I turned off the camera, put it back in my bag, and then when I had got home, I recharged that battery, and sure enough, it said that it was 80% or whatever. I even tried another battery, and when I tried to turn it back on, that didn't work. I searched the internet to figure out what could I do? What am I doing wrong? And it suggested taking out both memory cards and removing the lens, and then trying again. So I did that, and it still didn't work. So it's dead. And that means that the fate of my favorite camera is up in the air because I want to replace it, whether it means getting it repaired or getting a new camera. I don't really want to get a new camera. I would rather just repair it. And interestingly enough, when it did die, I just had looked at what the price of another X Pro 2 would cost, and I looked it up. Back when I bought my X Pro 2, it was in June of 2017. And this is my second X Pro 2. My first X Pro 2 I bought in August of 2016 and then sold it when I had quote unquote upgraded to the XT3 for shooting weddings, which I immediately regretted. Real bad decision. Was not happy with that. I just liked the style. I like the flow of shooting with the X Pro 2 more than the XT3. Not that the XT3 is a bad camera. It's a really good camera. I just liked the X Pro 2 better. But anyway, so my current X Pro 2, the one that I bought in June of 2017, I bought it for $1,149. And here in 2025, they're still selling for over $1,000, which to me, that's nuts. That is nuts because digital cameras don't hold on to their value very well because new technology comes very quickly. And for comparison, the Canon 5D Mark IV, which also came out in 2016 and retailed for $3,500, is now selling for less than the price of an X Pro 2. Anyway, point is, the camera's not so old that it's cheap enough to just buy a new one. And that means that I'm currently in the process of packing it up to send out for repair. And without seeing the camera, but just having heard of the issue that I just described to you, the estimate is about $400. And I think that's going to be the best option. I'm definitely going to pay it because I think one, I love the camera, but two, you can't buy another camera of the same caliber or build quality of the X Pro 2 for that price. You can't buy another camera that's comparable for $400. So it's like, do I buy a lesser camera that, I can get for $400, or do I spend a lot more than $400 to get a newer camera? And it's like that camera was my second body at weddings for 5 years. So I feel like $400 is a perfectly acceptable just maintenance cost or price for the amount of work that it's been through. But I did think about upgrading to the X Pro 3. Again, same rangefinder style that I love so, so much. And the X Pro 3 came out in November of 2019. So it is a newer camera. It has newer technology. It has a newer camera processor, newer sensor as well. But I'm not going to do it. And let's go ahead and talk about maybe acceptable reasons to upgrade a camera, because that's something that I'm sure many of you are thinking of or have done before. And I think first things first is that, like, upgrade whenever you want. Honestly, like, it's your money. I'm not going to tell you that you either should or shouldn't upgrade your camera, because everybody's shooting style is a little bit different. The subject matter is different for everybody as well. But since this show is called the Beginner Photography Podcast, while many of you have been with me listening for years, I know that there's still a lot of you who are new to photography and are shooting with entry-level cameras and are considering upgrading. So let me kind of break down for you why you might want to upgrade a camera and what features to look for and whatnot. But first, to be a camera, you must be able to simply control light and record an image. That's it. If you can do those two things, you're a camera. So both the 44,000 medium format Hasselblad camera and the 50-cent pinhole soda can with a light sensitive piece of paper inside they're both cameras. They're both cameras. And funny enough, actually, the light sensitive paper inside of a soda can would actually be much larger than the medium format sensor of a Hasselblad. But anyway, what's the difference between them, right? The difference between these two things is build quality and features. The Hasselblad, one of the features is an interchangeable lens. Like, wow, that's great. The Hasselblad can also record in color. Anyway, entry-level cameras, they can control light. It's the build quality and the features that are typically pretty minimal. So oftentimes, entry-level cameras they're mostly made out of plastic, and sometimes that includes the lens as well. And these features are held back from the professional models because most beginners are just learning how to use their camera. They don't need many of the extras that the pros use, so they remove them or hold them back to make entry-level cameras a cheaper and more affordable option, more easily accessible to get into the hobby of photography, right? Now, this does not mean that entry-level cameras take bad photos. Maybe you've heard me say that a brand new flagship camera does not mean that you are going to start taking better photos. What this means for entry-level cameras is just that the tool itself is limited in additional capabilities that maybe just professionals would use. So when you upgrade from an entry-level camera to pro gear, it's a big jump, right? However, once you have a professional series camera like the X Pro 2, you have the things like fantastic build quality. The X Pro 2 is built like a tank. Seriously, it is, rock solid. It's also weather sealed, and you have all the great features like great autofocus. Better than entry-level cameras for sure. You have dual card slots for security and recording your image to both places, and more like customizable buttons as well to make the camera your own. And I think that's about it. So after 9 years of owning the X Pro 2, a number of advancements have happened in the world of photography. Yes, there is better autofocus now, and yes, there is higher resolution sensors, things like in-body image stabilization as well. But other than that, There's really nothing that would truly benefit me and my style of photography. And honestly, I've never had a moment where I thought to myself, like, man, I really wish that I had more than 24 megapixels here. I've never ever thought that, ever. So I kind of don't even really care that much that there's higher resolution sensors either. So to upgrade, right? To upgrade would cost me between $1,500 and $2,000 just for slightly upgraded features that I would use and other features that I would not use. So to me, I don't see the point. The X Pro 2 still fits my needs in photography, my workflow in photography, my style of photography. Perfect. It's a great camera. Upgrading isn't solving any problems that I have with my photography. And it wouldn't be making the process of shooting any easier either. So if I did upgrade, it would simply be because I'm bored, I guess, because I would have reached the limits of my camera, the X Pro 2, and I haven't. I don't think that I have reached the limits of the X Pro 2. It's still, just keeps going and like going really well. 9 years later, like I said, it's a great camera. But again, I'm not shooting the Olympics, where I need peak autofocus speed. I'm not shooting massive fashion campaigns that need 50 plus megapixels. I'm not shooting video or in extreme low light to really benefit from in-body image stabilization either, except for maybe like 3 or 4 photos a month. Like, I could see how it would be helpful, but like not $2,000 worth of helpful. Now, those would all be like massive upgrades over an entry-level camera. So I'm not saying that an upgraded camera or that brand new cameras today aren't worth it. That would be a huge upgrade. But when you're coming from a pro level body, albeit not a current one, right? Came out 9 years ago. Going to another pro level body isn't that big of an upgrade. It's more of just like quality of life improvements. And again, it's your money. If you think that those quality of life improvements are worth it, then buy the camera. Who am I to tell you what to do? But it did make me ask myself, well, then what would it take for me to justify upgrading my camera, my X Pro 2? And I think for me, maybe it's because I'm getting older, or maybe it's because I've just experienced cameras like this as well. I would love a larger and a higher resolution viewfinder. That would be fantastic. Now that I'm getting older, my eyes are not what they once were. It's just nice to have a larger screen. And then also, I would love for it, and I'm assuming that we're talking about like an X Pro 4 here, right? Like what would be the next camera that would come out that would make me upgrade? It would also need the tilty screen from the X100V or the X100 6 series, just to make it easier to change my compositions from time to time, shoot more on my kids' eye level. And yeah, I would assume also that it would have the things like in-body image stabilization and faster autofocus as well. So like, that would be great. But the main things would be a larger viewfinder and a true tilty screen. But because that's not available right now, it's not an option, that's why I have simply decided to repair my 9-year-old camera rather than upgrade it. So do me a favor and cross your fingers that it goes well, because I don't know why, but like I'm nervous about it. Like going into surgery nervous. Like, oh, I'm sure it'll be okay, but what if it's not, like the weird things like that, which is crazy because like it's just a camera. It's just a camera. It's a piece of metal and glass and plastic essentially. But there is a sentimental aspect to the camera that it's been with me for a long time. I've created some of my favorite images with the camera, and I just love it. And I want to keep it. And I want it to keep working. So to make this more concrete for you, because again, maybe you are deciding whether you should upgrade or get a new camera, I would say if you're in my situation and maybe your camera died, that's why you're thinking about upgrading. I would say that if the repair cost is less than 30 to 40% of buying it new and your current camera meets all of your needs, then yeah, I would just repair it. if upgrading would give you features that you would actually use or would make your workflow much more efficient, and they're not just like, well, that would be nice type of thing, then yeah, it might be worth it to upgrade. And if the camera has a sentimental value to you, then sometimes it's worth more than the specs on the paper. And I would try to repair it, because that's what I'm going through. And this is a perfect time to bring up that on a completely unrelated note, I bought a new camera last week. That sounds so dumb. But hear me out, okay? So when I first got started in photography, it was with my dad's Pentax K1000 film camera. It's a fully manual film camera. It doesn't even require batteries to operate. Well, there's a light meter built inside of it, and it broke a few years ago. And I guess this is a pretty common thing for the K1000s, but it's not an easy thing or cheap to get fixed. So I have just been using my own pocket light meter when I go out to shoot, which has been fine. But unfortunately, I like film to be more like casual vignettes of life than works of art. So having to carry a whole like spot meter with me every time I go out and shoot with this K1000 really will get in the way of a good time real quick. Because it's not small enough to fit into your pocket. You kind of have to wear it around your neck along with the camera, and then these things are kind of like jumbling around. You can get like a pouch that you can connect to your belt for it, but then you have to plan that you're going out to do these things. You can't just like have it with you all the time. Anyway, so point is, I've been for a while wanting to get a film camera that is a bit more modern, something with, let's just say, a built-in light meter, and autofocus would be cool too. And Canon has been making film cameras, they've been making them for a long time, but they were building them still into the early 2000s. So, I mean, today you can get like a really good quality film camera for relatively cheap because the demand is not super high. And because I still have one Canon lens, the trusty Nifty 50, why, I'm not sure. I don't know why I didn't sell it, but I didn't. So I thought, well, I better go looking for a Canon film camera. And I settled on the Canon EOS 55, which I did not know this until after I purchased it, but it is a Japan-only model. It was only released in Japan. So there's a few features on it that are interesting, including the back. There's I don't know if it's a warning, but it's some sort of sticker, and it's all in Japanese, and I have no idea what it says, but it still takes photos. That's all that I needed to do. Anyway, in America, the version that was released, which is similar, is called the Canon Elan 2, E-L-A-N 2. And this is like, it's a mid-range camera, so it wasn't an entry-level Rebel series camera, and it wasn't a professional level like the N1 series camera. Just mid-range. And everything that I could find online about the camera said it had great autofocus, the build quality was good, and it also had features like being able to shoot double exposures. And I found one on Facebook Marketplace for just $50. And I went to go look at it, and I mean, it is in immaculate condition. Truly, like, I'm shocked that anything of this age looks this good. It's just cool to look at. So anyway, I bought it, $50. And for $50, you're immediately shooting full frame on, you can use professional series lenses as well. So like, you can create some really great images because it's on film. And after shooting for a few days, like, sure enough, autofocus is quick. It's got a good working light meter, and everything sounds like it's working perfectly inside the camera. When you're shooting with it, it advances the film, it automatically rewinds the film, things like that. So just a lot of quality of life improvements over the K1000, and it's only $50. So I've put 3 rolls through it, and I sent those out today to be developed. So I'll let you know how those turn out when I get them back. Here's the thing though, it's not a camera to replace anything that I have, right? Like, it's not going to replace the X Pro 2. But I've been wanting to shoot more film for a number of reasons. One, just being its tangible quality. I love that there's a chemical reaction with the light around us that happens onto this piece of film, creating something, marking it forever, essentially, as almost like a stamp that you were there and this thing happened. I like that a lot. As we move more into a world where AI is just in more places in our life, I like having something that is a lot more manual and tangible. And there's also just this greater sense of accomplishment when you capture a really good exposure on film, more so than when you capture a really good exposure on digital. I also like how I'm not self critiquing myself or editing the photos that I'm taking while I'm shooting, right? When I'm shooting with my X Pro, I'll be out there taking photos, but if I'm questionable about a photo, I'll do a playback, I'll look at how it turned out and then make adjustments from there if needed, but you can't do that on film. So I'm just out there in the world paying attention to everything that is going on around me and hoping to capture something interesting. And that's something. It's something that every time I have shot film in the past and I start to get into that mindset, it then transfers over into my digital photography, meaning I pay attention to light differently. I wait longer for the moment. Like I choose the moment in my head. Like I know what I want to see. So I wait longer for the moment rather than just shooting through something and then just picking out the best shot later. So I feel more intentional in both what and how I'm shooting. And I think that the more time we can be present and fully aware of what we're doing when creating something, be it a photograph, be it a new workbench, be it, just planting flowers in the garden, whatever it is, the more we can do that and be fully present and aware of what's going on, the better. Because those are the things that make you feel alive. At least they make me feel alive. They are the small joys in life that bring a feeling of accomplishment and pride. Every time I use my workbench in the garage that I built myself, it feels better than when I was using the workbench that I just bought at Lowe's a number of years ago. There's a level of pride in that when you're able to use something that you created and you're proud of it. But going back to talking about film, I would love, and my goal is to eventually buy a Fujifilm GW690 for a photo project that I have in mind all about Texas. But I thought maybe I should hone in my light reading and decision-making skills as far as controlling it with a 35 millimeter camera because it's cheaper to make mistakes on if you mess it up. With the GW690, I think you only get 11 shots per roll of medium format. So yeah, if you make a mistake, it's a lot more costly for sure. So we'll see, but that'll be a few years off. But speaking of photo projects, I am actually working on a project right now that is centered around the Indiana State Fair. Maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but I have this photo project. It's very large. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what to focus on with it, but I call it a love letter to Indiana, which is just me taking photos of things that uniquely say Indiana. Because just visually and culturally, Indiana is a very different state than California, where I grew up. So I see all these things in a light that just says, hey, this is Indiana. And it's those things that I want to capture within a photo story. So the state fair, well, growing up in California, I had went to the state fair like once, and it really just wasn't like as big of a deal as it is here in Indiana, where people like go knucking futz for it and all the things surrounding it too. People love the state fair, from the food to the animals to the rides, the vendors, like all of it. People love it, and I love it too. So since the X Pro 2 just died on me, and I just got this new Canon EOS 55, I thought, well, that's going to be my camera of choice for this year's state fair. Now, I've been going for 3 years to the state fair specifically to photograph it. The first time I went, again, specifically to photograph it, not like with a family or anything like that, It was a few years ago, and I focused on light and place, and it was just trying to make photos that said, hey, this is the fair, but like they didn't go deep or anything. It was just kind of snapshots, wannabe hero shots, I suppose. But while I was shooting, I kept noticing how much people loved eating those giant ears of roasted corn. I had taken a few photos of people with chomping down on this corn, but it was getting late, so like I didn't take many. The next year I went back, I thought I'm going to focus on people and their relationship with corn at the state fair, because outside of the Indy 500, Indiana is known for its corn. So it felt like a good match for this Indiana photo project, right? Well, this year I went and I focused a bit less on people and more so on like environmental images and what it feels like to be on the fair. I think part of that, my game plan kind of changed because I was still trying to figure out just how this camera works in regards to autofocus. How can I trust it? In what situations is it going to fail me? Things like that. And even though like it's pretty quick autofocus for a film camera, it's still really slow compared to today's modern standards. So it was just trying to like feel it out. And it felt like the right thing to do was just to focus on the environmental shots of the fair rather than focusing on people. But anyway, it was much tougher than I expected. And again, I think not only was I trying to figure out the camera, it was also shooting it on film is a different experience because there were a few photos that I really wanted to look at to make sure that I nailed the exposure. There's a silhouette of a horse that I, again, really wanted to make sure that I nailed that exposure. There was a shot where depth of field was really important, where I had a few stalks of corn in the foreground and then somebody in the background playing cornhole, right? And I thought it would be nice to have that depth of field there, but I couldn't check it. So I'm not sure how those are going to turn out. But we'll find out. We'll find out, right? And I'm not sure if you do this too, but I find having constraints makes me a more productive photographer. And what I mean by that is like, if I went to the fair with the goal of capturing the fair, well, it's like there's so much going on all the time that I would just be focused on surface level photos, right? Elevated snapshots, like nothing meaningful or important. It's nothing that anybody else wouldn't capture, right? It's nothing more than that because you're just walking around and you're just photographing what you see, kind of stream of consciousness type stuff. And that's because you're not spending any time observing the space as far as like what's actually happening. So just yesterday, well, let me get back to this. Because of that, I give myself constraints, right? It's these themes so that when I do go to the fair, I know exactly what to look for. I'll look for a sign that says fresh roasted corn. I'll look for people buying corn, right? The transfer from vendor to the person. I'll look for people putting salt on their corn. I'll look for people eating the ears of corn. I'll look for stalks of corn. I'll look for compositional elements that help me to say corn more, right? And I can hone in on one or two of those things and go deeper rather than just, oh, I'm just going to go and capture just some random photos. You know what I mean? And I only go to the fair like once a year specifically to do this. So only once a year, or I focus on capturing one element of the fair every year, right? And because of that, and every time I go to the fair, I get ideas for more things to focus on as well. And they kind of become more focused and more focused. So one of the things is just like the unique foods of the fair. But I think that's kind of like every fair in America, right? They're always going to have something like some interesting food thing. For us this year, it was like pickle pizza. We had a key lime milkshake. They called it a dirty dancing egg roll. I'm not sure what was in it, but I think it was like a Philly cheesesteak in an egg roll. Anyway, point is like unique foods of the fair, right? That's one. I want to capture things like love at the fair. So those images could be holding hands, somebody winning a giant stuffed bear, a couple sharing a Dole Whip together. Just images that say like love, fair, dating, something like that, right? That's interesting to me. Also, like the workers of the fair, so many food vendors, right? They have great attitude. They can be expressive. Sometimes they're also hot and bored, depending on the type of day it is. There's the crew that help make the fair possible, from people sweeping up trash to transporting things from one place to another. Then there's also, and I don't know if this is a big thing at all the state fairs, but like the state troopers are a big deal at the Indiana State Fair. They got several booths. They bring out their like retro charger or whatever it is, and you see them all over the place. So capturing them as well. And those would be more like environmental, like camera aware environmental portraits. I would tell them what I'm doing and ask to take their photo. But then you can also blend these things together as well. Like yesterday, while I was at the fair, I saw a group of state troopers all in like this half huddle in the shade, all eating like this barbecue pork sandwich or something like that. Like they were just having lunch. Like they were just being regular people, because a lot of people go to the fair for food, and they were just being like regular people. They weren't in the stiff state trooper, not attire, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they weren't putting on this facade that they were the state trooper. They were like, in that moment, hey, I'm just a regular person who's in my state trooper uniform. And so it's like things like that, and no, I didn't capture a photo of it. I should have, but like I walked past them and was like, oh man, that would have been a great shot. Anyway, it's like things like that I want to capture. Things like just silhouettes, but also like the fair first thing in the morning. People setting up for the day, people getting ready, people checking rides, people enjoying the calm quiet of the fair before it gets busy. And then you contrast that with the fair late at night on a Friday or a Saturday evening where there's a billion people and everybody's busy and it's, again, going crazy. They also have these tractors that act as like trams, and they go all around the state fair in a giant loop, right? And they stop, let people off, people can get on. Mostly people just go and like sit on it, and it gives them a good idea of the fair and what's going on and whatnot. But yesterday, I sat on it to go to the other side of the fair, and it was just interesting to just like, it was like the state fair was like moving around me rather than me moving through the fair. So I stayed on it for like 2 or 3 laps, just watching people, because it was constantly changing. And I thought, oh, that might be interesting. Like a view from the fair, a view of the fair and the people of the fair just from the tram. Anyway, point is, there's a lot of room to grow into this project, and it's a very long-term project. I mean, I just shared with you like the next 6 years of ideas that I have. And who knows, maybe next year I'll host like a photo meetup at the fair. That could be fun. That could be real fun, actually. But I shot 2.5 rolls yesterday, and I'm excited to see the film scans when they come out. And I'll be sure to share them with you as well. Unless, of course, they all come back totally under or overexposed and are unusable. But if that happens, I'll just claim that it was some sort of error with the developer and that I probably did a perfect job, but it was definitely their fault. I'm just kidding. But like I said, when I get those photos, I will be sure to share them with you. And I actually almost skipped going to the fair this year too. We had plans to go last weekend, and then we just didn't. It was kind of hot, and then life gets in the way. It's not that I didn't want to go to the fair. It was almost like I just felt like I couldn't make time to do so. July was an extremely busy month for our family. Literally every weekend was accounted for. We had softball travel. We were gone for 5 days. We went to an air show in Wisconsin for my son. That took a number of days for travel and to spend there. We had a family reunion planned in Alaska, so that was an entire week. My buddy from Texas came up, and he had a film that was premiering in our local film festival, so I went there with him as well. And I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining at all. Like, it was a fantastic month. But in that month, I recorded no new episodes. So podcasts have deadlines, right? These come out every Tuesday. Rewind episodes come out every Thursday. And deadlines are important. So I do my best to stick to them. But I almost said I can't go to the fair today and shoot because I need to record a podcast episode. This podcast episode. But here's the thing. When I go out and when I shoot, that is when I find new ideas. That's when I find new stories. That's when I come up with new lessons to bring to you here on the podcast. And without that, it's like I'm running on empty. And while it's possible to just phone it in, that's not right to do to you. You deserve better than that. So I went and I shot yesterday all day at the fair. I was there for 5 hours. I walked more than 5 miles. It was crazy. Valerie Jardin was right. Like, get yourself a good pair of shoes if you're going to be a street photographer. But this morning, when I sat down on my computer, I just hit record essentially, and here I am just flowing. Wrote out a few topics that I wanted to cover, and aside from that, it's just coming out. And it's coming out a whole lot easier than what it would have if I stayed home yesterday to get the episode released, to try to manufacture something. And that's kind of how creativity works, right? Like, you can't keep pouring out of a cup without refilling it. You have to step away from the desk and put yourself out there on a path of inspiration. So for me, that was wandering through the fair, looking for people eating corn. But for you, it could just be walking around. Maybe it's in your neighborhood in the evening, or going on a day trip to a little town or city near you that maybe you've never been to. And it's just a stop in the road just for you to walk around with your camera and watch the changing light. So I guess all of that to say, if you've been feeling stuck, if you've been feeling uninspired, it might not be because of lack of gear. YouTube is really good at making you think that. It could just be that you have a lack of creative input, and that's free. So it's okay to give yourself permission to refill your cup, because you'll be a better and a happier version of yourself when you do so. So what did we learn today? Well, hopefully a few things. I think first and foremost, I want you to realize that I guess your gear choice should serve your photography rather than the other way around, right? Just as an example, I've always wanted a Leica M6 forever, but they're so expensive. And I know that if I were to get one, it would just simply be the most beautiful thing on my shelf and nothing more than that. I wouldn't shoot with it much because I'd be scared that I would break it. So because of that, I don't buy it. I like to use my cameras a lot. We also learned the feature to cost ratio when upgrading cameras. Like, if you're not happy with your images right now, rarely will a new camera help you to take better photos. But if it will solve problems that you have when capturing images, then it might be worth the price. But before you upgrade, I encourage you to really, really, really use your camera. Like, try to push its boundaries. Take it to its full potential so that you know exactly what a new camera will allow you to do better. And lastly, we also learned that constraints are the key to, my creativity. One reason why people love photography so much is that it shows them exactly what to look at. It's constraining the viewer's viewpoint of the world around them, right? When you're walking around, you can look anywhere. You can get closer, you can get further away. Your attention can go to a million different places. But when we as a photographer show somebody, like, no, look at this, that constraint can create more beauty for something. So having constraints when shooting can do the same thing for your brain. Rather than your brain looking around and trying to figure out everything, having a photo theme says, no, just look for this to your brain. And because of that, you will be able to hone in on those things a whole lot easier. And you're going to be a much more productive at capturing those images. So those are my 3 biggest takeaways there. I would love to know what yours is. Feel free to join us in the Beginner Photography Podcast community, which you can join for free, of course, by heading over to beginnerphotopod.com/group. That is it for today. Until next week, remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Start a conversation. Grow together. That is it for this week. Remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.